Dear loving children, welcome to the online class. In the previous class, we learned about electoral politics. We learned why do we need elections, why elections are called democratic. We saw why some constituencies are reserved for weaker sections of society. We also learned about various process of elections. Election involve various process. First of all, we have to divide the state or country into various constituencies for Lok Sabha elections and also for state legislative assembly elections. Then voters list has to be prepared. An electoral roll or voters list has to be prepared by the election commission. We saw there are other processes like nomination of papers by the candidates, filing of nomination by the candidates, election campaign, meetings, rallies, posters, house to house canvassing. We also learned about some of the unfair practices in elections, and we saw some of the slogans given by political parties to win elections. We saw the Congress gave the slogan of Garibi Hatao. We saw in West Bengal the political parties gave the slogan of land to the tiller. In Haryana, Devilal gave the slogan of Nyaya Yuddha, struggle for justice. Janata Dal gave the slogan of save democracy. So, now let us move on to the other questions of this chapter. Why is it necessary to regulate election campaigns and what are the election laws in this respect? Why is it necessary to regulate? Regulate means to control election campaigns. And what are the election laws in this respect with regard to campaigns? First of all, it is necessary to regulate campaigns to ensure that every political party and candidates gets a fair and equal chance to compete. That all the political parties and candidates, they get a fair and equal chance to compete. That everybody is free to compete. According to our election laws, no party can bribe or threaten voters. These are the election laws. No party can bribe or threaten voters. Appeal to them in the name of religion. The political parties and candidates cannot appeal to the voters in the name of religion. And they cannot use government resources for elections, government vehicles, government buildings, government officials. So they cannot, the candidates and political parties cannot use, the ruling party cannot use government resources for elections, government fund for elections. And the next point, the candidates, they cannot spend more than 25 lakhs in a constituency for Lok Sabha elections. They can spend only maximum 25 lakh rupees for a constituency in Lok Sabha elections, or 10 lakhs for assembly elections. They can spend only 10 lakh rupees only for state assembly elections. So no party can spend more than 25 lakhs for Lok Sabha elections, and for state assembly elections they can spend only 10 lakh rupees. If they do so, their election can be rejected by the court even after they have been declared elected. If somebody makes a complaint and about that these parties have appealed to them in the name of religion, or they have bribed or threatened the voters, or they have spent more than the required money for elections, if they do so, their election can be rejected by the court even after they have been declared elected. Even after being declared elected, that election can be cancelled, and sometimes they can order for re-election, re-polling. All political parties should follow model code of conduct for election campaigns. They should follow a model code of conduct for elections. Once the elections dates are declared, the model code of conduct come into existence. Now let us come to the next question. What are the challenges to free and fair elections in India? What are the challenges to free and fair elections in India? The elections in India is basically free and fair, but a few candidates may win purely based on money and unfair means. A few candidates may win the election by the use of money and unfair means. Both capturing, both rigging. At the end of the lesson, some terms are given. You go through, you will understand. Candidates and parties with lots of money may not be sure of their victory, but they enjoy a big and unfair advantage over smaller parties and independents. Candidates and parties with a lot of money, sometimes they may not be sure of their victory, but they enjoy a big and unfair advantage over smaller parties and independent candidates because they don't have so much money and contacts. In some parts of the country, candidates with criminal connection push others out of the electoral race and secure a ticket from major parties. This is another one of the challenges faced by political parties. You will be studying in 10th standard. More about that one. Tickets are given to criminal people because they can they have a chance to win elections. They threaten voters, or they may have more money for spending in the elections. So in some parts of the country, candidates with criminal connections push others out of the electoral race. They push other people. They don't get tickets, and the criminals get tickets from the major parties. This is very bad for democracy. We must always elect people with good character and responsible, dedicated people for taking decisions for us. Some families tend to dominate political parties. Some families tend to dominate political parties and tickets are given to relatives of the families. Yeah, there are some families, they dominate political parties. We have Akali Dal in Punjab, we have DMK in Tamil Nadu. So some of the political parties are controlled by family members. And tickets are given to relatives of the families. Tickets are not given to other experienced people. So tickets are given to family members. They show a kind of favoritism or nepotism in giving tickets to the family members. Next point, very often parties offer little choice to the voters because there is very little difference between parties in their policies and practice. That also you will be studying in detail in 10th standard. there is no meaningful choice to the voters, because there is very little difference between one party or the other. Whether it is a Republican Party or Democrats in America, whether it is the Labour Party or the Conservative Party of UK, whether it is the UPA or the NDA, the coalition government in India, whether it is LDF or UDF in Kerala, there is hardly a very little difference between parties in their policies and practice. Only slight difference, how do they implement policies? On the next point, smaller parties and independent candidates suffer a huge disadvantage compared to bigger parties. Smaller parties and independent candidates, they suffer a huge disadvantage because they don't have so much of money, resources and contacts to win the elections. So these are some of the challenges. Let us come to the next question. What are the changing trends of people's participation in elections in India? What are the changing trends of people's participation in elections? People's participation in election is usually measured by voter turnout figures. Turnout figures indicate the percentage of eligible voters who cast their vote. After the election, we understand. We get whether 80% of people voted or not. We will know from the trend of voting how many percent of the people voted, whether turnout is 80%, 85%, maybe 70%, maybe sometimes you will find in the elections only 60% people only voted in some areas. So let us see the trend. In India, the poor, the illiterate and the underprivileged people vote in large numbers as compared to rich and privileged sections. This is in contrast to Western countries. So in India, it is a poor people, it is the illiterate people and the underprivileged people who vote in large numbers as compared to rich and privileged sections. The rich people may not go for voting. The rich and educated may not sometimes go for voting. So the percentage of voting in the cities will be sometimes less. But you find in the rural areas, the poor, the illiterate and the underprivileged people cast vote in large numbers. But this is in contrast to Western countries. Western countries, it is rich and the privileged sections who vote more. So on the other hand, the poor people, the underprivileged people, the poor people, okay, they don't want to lose one day's job. So they may not go for voting, but they will go for their work. So this is in contrast to Western countries, whether it is America, whether it is Britain or any European countries. The percentage of vote is more in Western countries. The rich and privileged sections vote more than the poor people. Common people in India attach a lot of importance to elections. They feel that they can put pressure on political parties through elections. That is why common people put more people come out to vote. They think they attach a lot of importance to elections. They feel that they can put pressure on in political parties through elections. They can influence political parties through elections. That is why if the parties do not perform, people throw them out. Whether it is a 100-year-old party, whether it is 50-year-old party, 30-year-old party, no use. If they do not perform, sometimes people may show them the door. We know the case of Delhi, where an Aam Aadmi party has come to power. The parties which ruled Delhi earlier, whether it is the Congress party or the BJP party, they have lost elections, and a new party has come to power in Delhi. Next point, the interest of the voters in election is related to election-related activities has been increasing over the years. The interest of voters in election-related activities has been increasing over the years. During the 2004 elections, more than one-third of voters took part in campaign-related activities. So, During the 2004 elections, more than one-third voters took part in the campaign-related activities, election campaign, meeting, rallies, okay, all that. More than 50% of people identified themselves as being close to some political parties or the other. About 50% of the voters in India are close to some political parties or the other. 1 out of every 7 voters is a member of a political party. 1 out of every 7 voter is a member of a political party. What makes an election commission an independent body? A very important question. What makes an election commission an independent body? Election commission is an independent body, just like our Indian judiciary. The chief election commissioner is appointed by the President of India. But once he is appointed, he is not answerable to the President or the government, the Prime Minister or the Council of Ministers. So he is appointed by the President of India, but he is not answerable to the President or the government, the executive. It does not work under any organs of the government, and it can take decisions without fear and obligations. The election commission can take decisions without fear and obligation. They do not work under any organs of the government, whether it is legislature or executive or judiciary. They do not work under any organs of the government. Only the judiciary can interfere if they violate constitutional rules. And it can take decisions without fear and obligations. Bold decision can be taken. It can take decisions on every aspect of conduct and control of elections, from the announcement of elections to the declaration of results. So, it can take decisions on every aspect of conduct and control of elections, from the announcement of elections to the declaration of results. Only they have the power to announce election dates, and they have the power to introduce a model code of conduct, and they can declare results. They can scrutinize the nomination papers. They can reject those nomination papers which are not filled properly. So they have the powers. The election commission implements the code of conduct and punishes the party that violates it. If anybody violates the code of conduct, once election dates are conducted, they cannot introduce new projects. They cannot lay foundation stone for any projects. During the election period, the election commission can order the government to follow some guidelines to prevent the misuse of government power to win elections and to transfer some government officials. So during the election period, the election commission, they can order the government to follow some guidelines to prevent the misuse of government power to win elections. And they also have the power to transfer some government officials if they feel so that they are more loyal to the ruling party. When on election duty, the government officials work under the control of election commission and not the government. So during election duty, they don't follow the orders of the minister or the chief minister or the prime minister. They are supposed to follow the orders of the election commission. If the polling was not conducted in a free and fair way, if the polling was not conducted in a free and fair way, it can order for re-election or a re-poll. So, the election commission has the power. Why election system has a high success rate in India? The next question. Why election system has high success rate in India? The ruling parties routinely lose elections, both at the national and the state level. The ruling party has lost elections in every 2 out of 3 elections held in the last 15 years. That shows the success of elections. the ruling parties continuously lose elections. Sometimes LDF come to power, then UDF come to power. Sometimes UPA come to power, then sometimes NDA come to power. In US, an incumbent means a sitting elected representative rarely loses elections. In America, a sitting incumbent or a sitting elected representative rarely loses elections. But that is not the case in India. In India, half of the sitting MPs and MLAs lose elections. Half of the MPs and MLAs lose elections. Candidates who have spent a lot of money for buying votes and those with criminal connections often lose elections. We find candidates who spend a lot of money for elections, for buying votes, and those with criminal connections sometimes lose elections. Barring very few disputed elections, the electoral outcomes are usually accepted by the defeated party as people's verdict. So, in very rare cases, otherwise, always the election verdict is considered as the defeated party accept it as outcome as the people's verdict. It is a verdict of the people, the decision of the people. So with that we come to the end of this chapter, electoral politics. So I want all of you to write down the questions and answers neatly in your notebook, and you should get ready for the exam the very next day. I find a few students are skipping exams. No student should skip exams, because these exams only will help you to study better. I also want you to read this chapter minimum 2 times and write the exams, and write down the notes neatly and eligibly, and send the notes to me. Once the chapter is complete, you can send the notes to me the very next day.